You know, when we chose that soundtrack for the debt threat, we made it an ominous track on purpose because it's an ominous situation, obviously. A recent report by the Economist Intelligence Unit, or EIU, explores the risk of a breakup in the Eurozone. What would a divided Europe mean for the region and the rest of the world? Jake Statham, editor-in-chief, ViewsWire at the EIU, joins Karen and Sri and myself on Monday Squawk Box today. Jake, welcome to the program. Good morning to you. Well, actually, it looks like they're closing on some sort of a, an agreement or a palatable solution to, backing up the problems in Europe. And Wednesday is the big day to watch. Should we even be talking about a breakup?
Well, I think we should. I mean, the events that came out at the weekend were still very inconclusive. We've really had this same pattern for the months and months of throughout the Euro crisis. They say they're going to come up with a big plan. Markets get hopeful and then they disappoint, or there's signs of slippage. So I think, at the moment it's still very inconclusive what came out of the summit at the weekend. Certainly there's some hope on the bank recapitalization. The big sticking point is still leveraging up the EFSF, which is the Euro bailout fund. But so going forward, not just Wednesday, but in the weeks and months ahead, I think the key thing is they can make these statements, they can sort of say they're committed to saving the euro, but they really need to back that up with action. At the first sign of slippage, I think markets will take fright.
I mean, what's sort of the current common wisdom, Jake? Is it that there is a better than 50% chance that there will be some sort of is it either or, black or white? I mean, getting a little bit pregnant, do you have to break up or not break up, or can you sort of break up a little bit?
Well, we think actually that ultimately European policymakers will do just enough to save the euro. They'll come up with a political will and the financial firepower to do so. But, and this is a big but, we do think that the risk of some kind of breakup, probably a partial breakup, is substantial. We've put a 40%, we've attached a 40% probability to that risk, and that's a big enough risk that people really need to have contingency plans. So, Eurogeddon might not happen, but businesses really need a contingency plan for that.
Wow. It's Singapore.
Jake, the reason why, we've been talking to some people this morning already who say even if we see a plan this week from European leaders, one of the key problems is there's no growth blueprint. Could this be the real risk as we see a solution this week that down the track many different countries will be facing different growth trajectories, and that will be a real sticking point for many countries?
That's a very good point. I think we would broadly agree with that. In fact, we've already just very recently downgraded our economic forecast for the Eurozone. So we now think that the Eurozone will be in recession next year. We think it's going to contract by about 0.3%. And, that's a no breakup scenario. So that means, if the Eurozone doesn't break up, it's still going to be in recession. If there is some kind of breakup, obviously the numbers are going to be much worse than that.
Jake, a lot of very influential German economists have been advocating that Greece temporarily leave the Eurozone. Just how viable is that? And if that did happen, it would have to go back to the drachma, arguably, and that's going to require a huge structural change internally.
That would require a huge structural change, and also the mechanism by which Greece could do that is very uncertain. There's no real mechanism for a country to leave the euro or to be expelled from it. And also, we just think that the impact on financial markets and on the real economy would be very severe. And beyond that, we also think that exit by one member alone is quite unlikely. If Greece goes, then it would probably take some more countries with it in quite a chaotic way.
Finally, Jake, we've obviously seen the the euro crisis impact on Asia in all the metrics from all countries on the trade front. We're looking for a private sector HSBC PMI read on China. Last time it was still sub-expansionary. If the euro does start to crumble, we do get like you say, a partial breakup. Would the trajectory, or would the spillover and the knock-on be different than when we first started talking about the Eurozone crisis at the advent of the whole thing? Any new views on the Asian impact?
Well, I think the impact really for companies in Asia and elsewhere really depends on how heavily exposed they are to the euro, both through in terms of financial exposure, revenue exposure, for example, through trade, supply chain exposure, and the things that companies need to think about. I mean, the more heavily exposed they are, the more it really comes down to business continuity issues, making sure you can still access that credit, making sure that your biggest customers or that your banks are not about to go out of business. More broadly, on a sort of more global or Asian perspective, even if you're not that heavily exposed to the Eurozone, you've got to start thinking about revenue projections and much weaker global growth environments.
Okay. The song goes, breaking up is hard to do, and the Eurozone is kind of proving that right now. Jake, appreciate your time, okay? Jake Statham
Thank you very
joins
much.
from the EIU. Counting down to the start of trading in major markets in South Korea and Japan. What do you need to know? You're going to get it all here next.